Welcome! In this video we will look at drop-down or combo boxes on forms with the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. This is the code file we were using in the last video. We're now going to add to this form we've created a drop-down list or a combo box. However, our Hello World application is probably best having its executable name changed. This is quite easily done. We can leave the source code as called Hello World, but we can actually change the name it compiles to. There we go. Just putting on a optional parameter after the compile exe means it will compile to read the data.exe. If we look at the folder we have at the moment, there's our Hello World. If we then go ahead and compile it and have a look at our file, there is our readthedata.exe. We're still using the original .bas file, but we're now compiling to a different executable. So, how do we add a drop-down box to this form? Quite simply, we nip up to the Tools menu and click on PowerBasic Forms, which will load all of the forms for our application. At the moment there is only one form in here, and this is it. Now, over in our toolbox, there are a number of tools we can actually bring in. Now, we're going to bring in the combo box. If we bring that one in, and there's our combo box. Now, simple double clicking on the combo box lets us set some properties. First thing we'll do is we'll give it a name. CBO for combo box, and we are going to be reading data we've created in a previous video. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this one iColor. And since it's a combo box, it doesn't actually need a caption. Now we OK on that, and we will change our title to something appropriate for selection of this combo box. There we go. So now our form, if we test it, displays select the eye color, and there's a combo box which is populated with some test items for you, which you can then pick. Right, so what kind of combo box have we actually selected? Well, despite it giving just a name, if we have a look at the styles, we'll see what we actually got. Now, of these styles, these are properties basically of the object. Tab stop is automatically ticked, which means when the user's tabbing around the screen, it will stop at this control. You can turn that off if it's not needed. There are three basic types of drop-down. The drop-down we've got selected at the moment is a combination of a text box and a drop-down list box, hence combo box. What that means is if we actually ran the program again now, just in our test here, it means not only can we pick from the drop-down list, but we can type in to the drop-down list. Now this may be functionality you actually want when you want a user to actually input a value that's not on the drop-down. But if you want to restrict them so they can only pick what's on the list, then what you have to do is, if you look at the properties of the combo box, you'll see that at the moment it's drop down, which is a combination of text box and drop down list. If you pick the top one, that gives you a combination of the label and drop down list box controls. So we click on that and hit OK. If we attempt to run that one now, that still gives us a list, but it doesn't give the ability to actually type anything in. So you can only pick items which are already on the list. Now, for the purposes of this particular combo box, that will do nicely. The other properties you have, it pre-selects for sort, so whatever you put into that drop-down list will be sorted alphabetically. We'll cover the other options in a later video, but for today, this is all we need to do in the form designer. So if we quite simply save that one, close down the Forms Designer, reload the file, and if we have a look at our dialog, we'll find on our dialog there is now a Control Add Combo Box entry at the bottom of the list. Now, although we've put this in here, if we actually ran the program in here, there would be nothing on the list. The entries you saw in the Form Designer were just for illustration purposes. We have to populate the list ourselves. So, how do we do that? Well, where we're in here at the moment, this is the function which displays the form on screen. Now you can, in theory, in here, populate the combo box here. Or you can do exactly the same thing in the initialization handler of the form, which is basically the event handler. The event called initialize dialog is kicked off as soon as the form is loaded. Basically, it's an on-load event. So if we decide to, in here, populate our combo box, how do we do it? How would we do it? The combo box command has quite a number of options. Which we will look at here. Now, each of these commands performs a specific function. First one we'll look at is the reset command. The reset command will effectively empty out a combo box and take all its values away. Now, we know, since we've just created the form and we're just initializing it, that there's nothing in the list. But it's good practice to make sure there's nothing in it, because what we're going to do after we've created these commands is we're going to create a generic function whose job it will be to populate any combo box for you. Now, in here, it wants the handle of the dialog. Now, we don't need to store this value because inside the event handler there is a reserved structure called cb.handle, which will return the value. But we do need to know the value of the combo box, what we actually called it. If we have a look at a dialog, we'll see when we created a combo box, we called it combo eye color. So if we quite simply copy that one in, that will reset the values. Now, we may want to add something to the combo box. Now we have to say what we want to put onto the list. So just for the sake of argument, we'll put that value in. And that will be the only addition to the list. If we run the program now, on our iColor list, there is a single value blue, which the user can quite happily select. When the form loads, the combo box is not pre-selected. You have to pick what's on the list. So if we were to add another entry to that list, simply just keep adding, and since we know this is a sorted combo box, if we put these in effectively not sorted, green first then blue, when we run the program they are alphabetically sorted for you. So that adds a couple of small things quite easily to the combo box. Now what we want to do, having put something in the combo box, is we want to pick up the value that a user actually picks from it once they select on it. Now if we look down here, the Forms Designer has already put in the name of the combo box for you. So what we want to do is basically raise an event to pick up the fact that the user's actually clicked on that. Now, despite the fact it's a combo box, it's treated exactly the same as a button. So this piece of code within this if statement will actually trigger when the box is clicked on. Now, what we want to do is to pick up the value in the combo box, what the user actually selected. For this particular type of combo box, this is very easy. And we want the name of the object. There. Now we're going to get the text that has been selected from the combo box, which is the eye color, and we're going to put it to a variable which we will now declare at the top of the event handler. And just to prove that we got that value, we'll do a message box to the screen. So if we run that now, there's a combo box, we pick green, and it's effectively picked up the value you've actually chosen and displayed it on screen. So that's fine for that, but what we want to do is something a little bit more sophisticated. In one of our previous videos, we actually created a little database, and we're going to reuse some of those files now. We have eye color already in a flat text file, containing all the eye colors that are in our data. So what we're going to do, we're going to read through this file, and we're going to create our combo box based on the values that we find in this file. So we're going to create a little function called populate combo, and this is going to do the population of our combo, and this is going to do the population of our combo box. Obviously we're going to have to pass some parameters, and the obvious parameters to pass will be the handle of the window and the handle to the combo box itself. Now we'll also have to pass some data, which will be an extra parameter. We'll do that in a moment. Before we populate the combo, we're going to have to get the data. So what I'm going to do in here, we're going to create a local array which will contain the data for our combo box. So we're going to create a first function whose job it will be to get the data, and we will pass the name of the array into which we want to put the data, and we'll also want to give it the file name which contains the data. Now in this case we know that the file name is eyecolor.csv, so we'll put that in here. And this function will get the data. So if we'll nip to the bottom of our program, and we'll create a new function. Right, we've already got some library functions which will perform many of the tasks we're actually trying to do. So we have a library function called file handling routines. So we're just going to copy that, and we're going to include that at the beginning of our code. And since this is in the libraries, now if we bring that library function in, just to see what it has in it. Now it has a number of functions, and the one we're after is read the file into an array, which will quite happily do what we want it to. So if we go back to our original code, Now we have our file name. And we have our array. Now this will handle the case where the file is not actually there. Always good practice to put it in. So what this will do, this will bring the file straight into our array. It will dimension it for us, it will size it for us, so there's no worrying to do with that one. Now, the information it brings in will be this. That will go into the 0 element, which we can quite happily ignore. All the other elements have an extra parameter which we're not really interested in. So for the purposes of this, we're going to sweep through the array and take all those values out. So we will create a little counter variable. And then a for next loop. Using the ubound command, which tells us the top entry in the array. Now what we'll need to do here is we will quite cleverly use the parse command, which we've used in previous videos, to strip out the data we're actually after. So contained within this is effectively this. And we only want the information before the comma. So we'll use the parse command to do that. And our delimiter is a comma, and we're after the first element. So that will sweep through each of the elements from 1 to the end of the array, taking out the commas. And that should return to our calling function a list of the 6 eye colors. So if we go back to our program, in here we will now, coming out of this function, which we'll do a test on this as well, just to make sure this function will only populate if it's true. Now we want to pass into this Right, okay, so we want a new function to populate the combo box. So we'll create a new function at the bottom, and again this is a generic one which we'll probably end up putting in our libraries. Now we'll create a variable for the dialog as a D word, and we'll create a long for the combo. And our data, which is coming by ref, is a string. So we know that the ASTR data has got data in it. The first element of that will be a header, which we don't necessarily want in our combo box, but everything after that we're interested in. So we will create another little counter variable, and another for next loop. This will all start to become very familiar. So for each element inside this, we need to effectively add. Now, you saw before we did a combo box reset, so we'll just do that again in here. and we will want the handle of the dialog and the handle to the combo box. So for each of these we want to add a new entry. And what we want to add is what was actually left in the array. So, will this do what we want? Let's find out. What have we missed? Missing decoration, we haven't declared it. Oh, I used the wrong variable name. Right, let's try that. And we made another error. Oh, we haven't returned it as a long. And we don't need an equals in there. Compilers are wonderful things. Right, that's looking clean now. So on our drop-down list, there we indeed do have the 6 colours of eyes, sorted alphabetically, even though in the file they were not alphabetically. So that has automatically done a sort for you, quite happily, with the 6 values. So this generic population of the combo box is fine. However, we may wish to pre-select a value on the list. So changing this populate combination one to give it a pre-selection option is probably a good idea. Now if this is not selected, then if str selection is a 0-len string, then the combo box will not be pre-selected. So we have to test for that. So basically, if it is not a 0-len string, we want to pre-select. Now, how do we actually do that? If we have a look at the options we have on the combo box control, we have an entry to look for an exact match. This is the one I'm after. So if we just paste this in, this is going to find an exact match for something we're after, and it's going to put the value to this variable over here, which we will rename to a more sensible name as long item. It's the item, and we'll declare that one up here. So in here we have the dialog already, we have the ID being of the combo box, the item is the item number to begin at. Now in this case we'll begin at number 1. What we're looking for is this value here. So if this does actually find an entry for the thing we've given it, there will be a value in long item. So if it's greater than 0, we know we have found the item we're looking for. Now in that case, what we want to do is we want to select that particular item on the combo box, and that's done quite simply by using the combo box select command. Again, we have the dialog variable, we have the combo variable, and we need the item that it's actually found. So if we go back to where this is originally used, we have added a new parameter which, if we put it in as a 0-len string, it will run the program and it will effectively not select anything. However, if we give it a color we are specifically looking for, as in blue, run the program now, and I've missed a conjugation character. And there we go, blue has been pre-selected. even though blue is not the first one on the list. So using this method, you can display a combo box on the screen, and you can populate it with values coming from a text file, and you can select any item on the list based on your pre-selection criteria. So if we look at the beginning of our code, we've added in one library. I think we will create a new library now for this common control, since this common control can quite happily control anything. So what we'll do is we will create a new library. We'll call it Windows Control Library, and we will take our code for populating the combo. We will cut it out of here and we will put it into our library, since we intend using this in many other programs. So if we save this one now, and we'll call it Baby Win Controls. And if we go back to the top, and we will include it as a new library. So if we run that now, it will run quite cleanly and do pre-selection, which is fine. So this short video is purely to handle combo boxes. In later videos, we'll go on to add more controls so we can read the data we created in our earlier videos. Thank you for watching.